Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 31 of the Over the Head podcast with myself and Scott Ratliff. We just finished up the semifinal weekend, and what a weekend it was. And Scott, is this our last podcast for a little bit?
I was thinking that this morning. I think we probably have to do a championship game recap as well.
Yeah,
would be the appropriate, so maybe second to last for a little bit.
And then what are we going to do? We going to talk about just podcast tennis maybe, or what are we going to do?
We could. Although the U.S. Open unfortunately is ending right around the same time, and then they're kind of in the pseudo tennis off season. So I don't know what we talk. We could do weekly poetry readings. We could talk about hunting. I don't know.
But Scott, the matchups this weekend, man, which one do you want to dive into first? Let's dive into the Water Dogs Atlas game first. Obviously, really big matchup. The Water Dogs attack unit was getting kind of settled in after the last 2 weeks, man, but kind of disappointing output from their midfield unit coming into this one. What did you think about this game going into it, looking at it and watching it?
Yeah. So I thought the theme of the weekend, honestly, overall was a little bit as expected. Neither of these games, for the last 2 weeks we've been talking about, I talked about last week how I've been on a cold streak and how, it just seemed like the Atlas and the Outlaws were the obvious picks this weekend, but knowing the PLL, it likely won't go that way. It did feel like these games went kind of exactly as Will and I guessed last week, and I don't feel that proud of that because it was kind of obvious. It was you saw what you saw all season from these teams. So specifically, you said it, the story of this game. So I'm going to let you talk about the Water Dogs midfield. You've been on that. Obviously, they struggled. I thought Connor Kelly at least tried. He was aggressive early. He just couldn't really find it. The rest of them, nothing out of the rest of that midfield. But to me, the story of this game was goalie face-off. I thought Will he mentioned that Nards used to tell him, Nards being Joe Nardella, that he and Bernlohr in those Whip Snakes championship years always said if the combination of us two can get above 100%, right? So 50% face-off, 51% goaltending, or et cetera, that we're going to win. And that's what happened. I don't I could pull up the stats, but Entenmann was in the 70s, right? And Baptiste was in the 60s. So yeah, Entenmann was at 69.2%, and the face-off was somewhere around 60-40.
Yeah.
So I thought certainly we can pick apart some of the frustrations with the Water Dogs midfield. I thought the difference in the game was Baptiste, allowing the Atlas to play make it take it. Because I actually thought the Water Dogs defense did pretty well, and then it was Entenmann going 70%. For it to be a 2-goal game and you to have a negative 20 at the face-off and a negative 30 at the goaltending is you could argue that you're almost a better team everywhere else besides those two positions. So that to me was it. I also think the last thing I'll say, and let you kind of cook here, was I just think that the culture of the Atlas team has been drastically changed by two guys, Connor Schellenberger and Liam Entenmann.
Yeah.
And this team, this Atlas team has been a team for really kind of in the Pressler version of them has been super talented. Even when it was Heat and Law down, it's they've had this kind of electric offense. They've had a ton of talent. Those two have this championship, obviously pedigree from college. They both won multiple championships as arguably the best players on their team. And they just have an intensity and kind of an emotional toughness to them that I just think is a little bit of the edge that they've been missing. And I thought last year you started to see it. They're rookies. It's going to be really hard for Rook, but now you see both of those two are owning the position. Schellenberger is going to win MVP. Entenmann here down the stretch has probably been the best goalie. You could make a case for goalie of the year. And they both play with a level of intensity, that I think just this Atlas team was missing a little bit. So that for me is kind of what really jumped out. It was Trevor, it was Liam, and then it's what Shelley just brings to them from a toughness on offense that I don't think they had before him.
Yeah, and we've talked about this. I think mentioned it last week. Their midfield unit scored, I think, 1 goal of 11, and then this week, kind of the same thing, right? Connor Kelly took 5 shots, had 1 point, and he's kind of, Connor Kelly's kind of been a consistent product for them. But man, I was talking to Marcus, like one of the most disappointing, underwhelming players on their team is Jack Hanna, right? Jack Hanna, like when he, all-star game, like he has so many flashes of brilliance, and then like we get in these games and like you just don't get anything out of them. And I don't know what that stems from. I don't know if they're like, their game plan is to get the ball to the attack. Everything starts with the attack, because if you look at the numbers, like their production on their midfield the last 3 weeks is pretty disappointing. Like the McConvey kid, right? We were talking about him maybe being midfielder of the year, like the first like 3-4 weeks, and goose eggs for him. They hit a lot of pipes, but like at the end of the day, like Ben Ware took more shots than every one of their midfielders outside of Connor Kelly, right? And he's been, kind of a bright spot for them. We've talked about him in the beginning. I was big on him. It's good to see him just bombing the ball from the outside. I mean, him and Jimmy Freehill shot 2-pointers yesterday that were well outside the arc.
And I'll push on you. I mean, he's been okay.
Yeah.
Like he hit 2 twos, which of course, if you hit 2 twos, it's a great game. He had 1 ground ball.
Yeah.
Like so yes, in terms of being able to score, he's been a bright spot. But I'm not all the way there yet. But again, good rookie year.
Yeah.
Good rookie year. I shouldn't hate. But
and then
you got to find a way to steal some of those faceoffs. Like to me, the LSM position, like outside of again, can inject offense, but like against Trevor Baptiste, like you've got to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Right. Like you got to beat when you're a pole on a wing. Like that used to be the game I'd look the most forward to, because it's like you kind of know what's happening with the clamp. He's going to exit. So all I got to do on the wing is just be locked in. And if he's going to win, I'm going to make sure he's taking a beating the entire game. And I didn't feel like, I didn't feel like that happened. Courier for so long was so good at that. I don't know that I still think he's a great player. I don't know that he has quite the same first step that he used to have.
Yeah.
But man, and
that's a good point, because the only guy on the face-off wing that helps out Stephakis is Zach Courier, right? He had 5 ground balls, and he usually picks up, 2 or 3 big ground balls on the wing. But yeah, man, it was just like, this attack unit for them. Obviously they got going, but Sowers was like a little quiet. He had 2 goals, and I don't want to say shied away, but like he kind of like didn't,
but
the big
to
games
me,
he had at the beginning of the season.
I do agree. I think the Atlas deserves some credit. Like, and I'll say this even about like what your point with the middies and Ware and just their offense in general. Sowers didn't touch the ball the entire first quarter.
Yeah.
And I think some of the blame goes just broadly to the Water Dogs. So like
he had 16 touches. That's not good.
No, like seriously, the first time he touched the ball, I think was like the broadcaster said something. It was like under 2 minutes left in the first quarter, and I'm pretty sure he dodged in. I don't know if he didn't. I don't think he scored on that one, but he got a good look, or he might have gotten an assist. But it was like he got a switch off a pick, he dodged a shorty, and made something happen. But it was like the very end of the first quarter, and part of that was just game flow. And so after kind of saying where got to do more in other parts of the field. I mean, where's the only reason they were in that game? Like they're down 6-0, and he comes up with 2 straight twos to to get it to 6-4 or 5-4, whatever it was. So those were big time shots, and like he deserves credit. I also think a big part of the LSM position is sparking when you need kind of a an energy jolt, an LSM goal or a tough ground ball or a play in the middle of the field, and so he did that. But when they got the ball, I think the first settled possession, Connor Kelly dodged and took a shot, and it was a shot save, which I didn't hate because you kind of wanted to see somebody from the Water Dogs midfield assert themselves, but then it turned into make it take it. There was like a penalty, so the Atlas had a long possession, then they're winning faceoffs, then Stathakis had jumped, and then they scored, and then they got to face off against Logan, so they won that one, or not Logan, but against Witcher, so they won that one easily. And then the next time the Water Dogs got on settled offense, it was like 5-2, because then they finally get transition and Ware hits a 2. But even still, after that 2, like Sowers hadn't gotten to run off a pick yet in the entire game. And I think it can't be understated like how much rhythm plays into these games. And it's like when you are basically a passenger for the entire first quarter and your team's losing, it's very hard to just like still play with the same level of composure and because you're just like, fuck, I haven't touched the ball, we're losing, I need to. And I don't think that he really pressed or that their offense really pressed. Like I thought they actually still did a pretty good job given the amount of possessions that they ended up with. To me, it was less about like the offense not playing well and more about the goalie, guy, just not really allowing them to get enough opportunities with the ball. I mean, you can't, dude. You're not going to win a semifinal game with 38% in the cage, 38% in the cage, and what 10 of 23 for static hits at the faceoff. Like it's just not good. You're just not going to win many games like that.
And we've touched on this, like goalies that are above 50%. You got to be, that's like the bare minimum. You've already touched on that, but 38% and 8 saves in cage is not going to get it done. I think the Water Dogs have some figuring out in between the pipes because obviously they've been Dylan Ward, DeLuca, Dylan Ward, and then it's just very inconsistent. And they kind of have. We'll touch on this obviously, but the Redwoods too, like the goalie play. It's you got to have a goalie that's at least above 50%. But like Liam Entenmann, he's establishing himself as one of the greats, and he played out of his mind yesterday with 18 saves, obviously 69%. So,
and I've been kind of down on the Atlas defense. I still don't love them. When you have a goalie that saves 70%, it helps.
Yeah,
but they had a plan. Like they do. They went 3-0 against the Water Dogs this year. Adler presses Sowers. Obviously, that's a guy who probably covered Sowers some in college in the Cornell Princeton days. I don't love when Adler against some other teams. I feel like their team defense can be really out of sync, and they can struggle with teams that aren't kind of like that don't have like the guy at X that you have to take away. Because I think that's what he does really, really well. But he presses Sowers. So part of the reason Sowers isn't getting the ball early is also because he's just being shut off.
Yeah.
Right. So I thought he took him way out of a rhythm. But I just thought like they had a pretty good plan, and it seemed like it was press Sowers all over the place, completely shut McArdle. Right. And we've talked about this. Like Kieran, how many times you got to see it before you go into a game and say, we're not going to let Sowers throw it to Kieran? Like last week, Kieran has 6 goals. Sowers has 4 assists. It's like, so they basically, to me, they said, okay, CJ Kurse beat us. Like CJ Kurse is playing against not the number 1 defenseman, and he's not getting the early slides. He's not getting the shot. And he goes for he goes for 2-1.
Yeah.
I mean, has like a pretty strong day. Could have had 3. But again, when you have as many weapons as the Water Dogs, you're not going to shut them all out. So I thought they did a really good job of kind of choosing, hey, here's where we're going to just completely take it away, and we're going to make them beat us with other guys. And the Water Dogs, getting 3 2-pointers from their poles, like that's not ideal. But when you're not letting Sowers and you're not letting McArdle, hurt you on that offense, you've got a pretty good chance to hang with them, especially with kind of the way that they've played defense this year.
Yeah, and then moving into the Atlas, obviously their attack unit has been playing unbelievable all year. Connor Schellenberger, you just touched on it. I think I think you got to give him the MVP. I think.
I think at this point it's like done deal. I think he's winning it.
Yeah, sure. I think Connor. I mean, you could put arguments on both sides. He played himself into the MVP or to win the MVP, and then Sowers kind of played himself out of the MVP. Obviously, Sowers had a strong showing, but man, Connor Schellenberger, in my opinion, is the MVP. And Xander Dixon, this game was 6-0 in the first 5 minutes. It looked like it was going to be a train wreck for the Water Dogs, and obviously they came back within. Thank God those poles stepped up and shot those 2s because that game was getting ugly fast. But yeah, man, this team's playing at a high level, and it's going to be I think it's going to be an awesome championship game. But
it is, and we'll talk more about that when we preview. So the last thing I'll say, I mean, Reed Bowering, insane season out of him. Kind of came out of nowhere, and then everything changed for this team when they committed to go young at the midfield.
Yeah,
Hugh Kelleher, right, out of Cornell. Jake Stevens is running around out there out of Syracuse, second-year player. Yeah. Krevsky, right, is I think a rookie right out of Yale, playing short stick D midi, who's been super physical and kind of making plays all over the field. And then obviously Matt Trainer has 3 goals, and he's been awesome. So you've got. I mean, I banged this freaking drum all year, with these teams, and you have these great players, you have to, if you're a coach or a GM in this league, you have to make hard decisions to open up spots and go young. And, I had hang with me on this little journey I'm going to take you on. I was having a conversation with somebody recently about writing, right? I like to write poetry. I'll talk with other artists, painters, writers, whatever. And somebody had asked about, if you're going to keep trying to write another book, or if you do you keep publishing, works of art or put it out there? And I was kind of explaining I just I just feel like it's part of the process. You got to share it. That's the thing. And what he said to me is, a tree, if you don't pick the fruit from the tree, it won't bear more fruit. Meaning, if a tree grows a bunch of apples and nobody goes and picks those apples, there's no room for new apples to grow. Okay, so to me, with the Atlas, moving away from Kyle Jackson, moving away from Miles Jones, like moving away, like Dox Aikens, not, like all of a sudden you're picking apples off a tree. It's not that the apples are bad, did anything necessarily wrong. It's just if you don't move on from players who have had great careers or have had good moments or whatever, you're not creating room for new players to step in and become stars in this league. And if you don't do it, other teams will. And I keep outlining examples of this. I think the Archers in 2023 were a great example of this, right? I was one of the apples off of the tree on that team. And all of a sudden, like Mac O'Keefe, who was like a second line midi on the Chaos, comes over and has a crazy season because he's in his position and he's given an opportunity and he's given a spot. And Connor Fields is starting at lefty attack, and Matt Moore gets an opportunity to start, and Trey LeClaire takes on a bigger role. And like all these guys end up, elevating because they're no longer playing kind of secondary positions and they're not, so I just think the same thing happened here. Like, I think Pressler did a really, really good job of making some hard decisions and say, I'm going to commit and make Trainer and Kelleher feel comfortable. Like, you guys don't have to look over your shoulder. You're not going in and out of the lineup every week competing with Miles and KJ. Like, he made the decision in week 2 or 3. Okay, this is our midi group. And have they been great every game? No. But now they get to the playoffs and like they're confident. They're not rookies anymore. They've played 10 games as opposed to like we've talked about it, like situations on other teams where guys come into a lineup. If they don't score 3 goals the next week, they're right back out. And it's like they don't feel like this is really my spot, my role. So I just think Pressler deserves a lot of credit. He picked some apples off the tree and some beautiful new apples grew in that spot.
Do you think that's one of the weaknesses of coaches in this league is kind of staying with that crew until it gets to a point where it's too late? Because I think a lot of teams, like you said, the Archers being one of them, but I think a lot of coaches, I don't know if it's too close of relationships or obviously you got to build relationships with your players, but I think you kind of see that on every team. Like Pressler has been very,
it's a great point.
Pressler has been very good at it, I think. But there are some teams like the Whip Snakes, like, the Matt Rambo thing is that obviously that looks like that marriage is over. But a lot of coaches kind of keep guys on too long and it's just, they get either it's too old or they're just there's younger guys that are better than them. And it just doesn't happen quick enough.
It's a great question and it's and a great point. I think, look, I've said this, if I had any like resentment towards the Archers at the end of my career, it would have been that Bates waited an extra year before he did that. Like, I would have loved to be able to like been a part of that turnover and gotten one of those championships. Like, yeah. And I think like the short answer to your question is, which is a good question, is yes. Like, I do think it's a problem with coaches in this league. I think it's one of the challenges of not having DMs. Yeah. Like these coaches, like Bates, with all of us, we built close relationships, and he, and we're talking about players who had 10-year multi-time all-star, in the case of like Mark, like all-time great Hall of Fame careers. So it's not easy for a coach when you have a personal relationship, you admire this person, you guys have been chasing the same goal together for a couple years in a row. Like, it's hard to then just like see clearly to say like, no, it's time to move on. I think that's in a lot of other sports the role of a GM to kind of, sit in the ivory tower and not get too close and just make more like tactical decisions on personnel like that. I do think it can be done by coaches. I think Bill Belichick in the New England Patriots was the king of this for years, right? Like they would always say Belichick trades his stars away a year before their decline. Like, and I just think, and you mentioned the whips. I mean, I would agree like with Rambo, although I would say Staggs, I mean, he's turned over that off. Like, he's actually to me one of the like the colder ones with, I mean, he moved on from Manny after Manny led the team in points. Like, now the bringing in Rob thing was super weird to me. I really believe there is a sweet spot. It can't be everybody. Like, you have to have veteran presence, right? So you've got to figure out who are the 3-4 vets in the 3 or 4 roles that make the most sense for us to keep. And then where do we open up spots on the apple tree for new fruit to grow? Like, that math is not a perfect, a lot of that is team feel, and the coach should have kind of a say in that. But I think that's kind of the equation that Pressler has gotten right. Eric Law, like, he moved on from him, who, is an all-time great and whatever, like, to make room for Schellenberger and for Dixon before it was obvious that Dixon was going to be what he was. Like, it's easy now to be like, oh, obviously you make room for Dixon, but like, at that time, Eric Law is maybe the best inside finishing attackman in the history of pro lacrosse, like with Lavelle or, whatever. He's up there in the conversation, multi-time champion. And Dixon is the third best attackman off his college team. Like, it wasn't obvious at that point.
Yeah.
And Pressler makes the decision, you know what, Shelley and Xander have the chemistry. Obviously, we have Teat. So instead of going, Teat, Law, and Shelley, we're going to put Shelley, like, we're going to make that decision and look where they're at now for it. So I think a lot of these other coaches, should be paying attention to, like, some of these moves. And again, you're not going to get everyone right, but I just think you have to be willing to make tough decisions in this league. Players aren't going to like it. It's going to fuck up relationships. It does. Like, that's the truth of it. Like, sometimes when these decisions are made with coaches and players, it gets a little salty. Like, but welcome to the show. It's not college. Like, this is how it works, So I think Pressler just deserves a lot of credit for how he has constructed this team, and it's the best Atlas team yet. And let's see. So let's see. Anything else on them? And obviously we'll come back to them when we talk about the Outlaws, but you want to move on to that Redwoods Outlaws?
Let's jump into Redwoods Outlaws.
So let me pose this question to you on this game. Was there any more for the Redwoods to get? Like, did you watch this game and think, oh, if the Redwoods just did this or that, or was this just a matter of, like, your roster's not there yet and we saw them hit their ceiling? Because we talked about Chase Ireland, but, like, Chase Ireland was 60% in this game and was very good in the right. Obviously, TD, he didn't have his best game in this one, but, Chase and TD went above 100%, like, on that Nards formula. And they still lost like, comfortably. So what's your takeaway on this Redwoods season, this Redwoods team? Is there any regret coming out of this game, or is this kind of if you're in that locker room, are you kind of like, this is what it is?
Yeah, obviously, I think their roster, how many rookies they have, how young they are. We were super high on them at the beginning of the year, and then they kind of, like, were up and down, and then obviously made a good push to the playoffs. But I just think, like, the goalie play thing for me is a big one. Obviously, Chase Ireland the last 2 weeks has been close to 60%. Last week pretty much won them the game. I think he had like 18 or 19 saves. I just think they need a little bit more firepower in their midfield. Romar Dennis didn't have any points. Bertrand 0 points. And then McAdory, right? He had 1 point in this game. We probably needed a little bit. We probably needed the game he played last week this week to beat the Denver Outlaws, right? The Denver Outlaws are a phenomenal team. Them and the Atlas are the two best teams in the league, obviously, but, like, I don't think they should be hanging their heads. I think they got a lot to look forward to moving into next year. Obviously, new coach coming in, kind of revamping this entire thing, him and Joe Spalina. But, man, I think they got a lot to look forward to. I think they're going to be a very good team moving forward, adding a couple pieces here and there. But, man, I wouldn't – if I'm them, I'm not hanging my head. They were in this game. Obviously, it was 6-6 in the first half, and then they got blanked in that third quarter, and that kind of screwed them in this game. But for me, I'm not – I think, I think they –
let me say it. You were never going to win this game.
No.
Redwoods.
No.
There was no scenario where you were going to win this game. Like, you just weren't as talented as this team. They're more like, there's a process to making and winning championships in this league. And you don't generally get to skip steps. And this would have been skipping a major step. And I don't mean that as shade. Like, the Redwoods should be super proud of
100%.
The season they had, of the run they made, of getting past Carolina, who, I would have picked and would have made the argument that they were, they're more playoff experience and all that. But, like, the gap between these two teams was big. Yeah. And I think talent at almost at every position, you go Denver, outside of maybe faceoff, which Weirman ends up making it like a 50-50, if not kind of wins that battle. So, like, this just, like, what it was to me and kind of what I expected to see. I think the Redwoods, like, they have room for talent upgrades still at a lot of spots. Like they have some very, very, very good pieces in Chris Kavanaugh and McAdory. If Malloy can continue, like I don't know how long Malloy can continue to be like this. He's 30. He's not 23 like these other young guys. But like you obviously found something there with him. But even defensively, Kyle, like to me, they were significantly better with Kastner in the lineup. I thought he was awesome. He pressed Pat Cav all over the field, made his life difficult. And I think Chris Fake is probably a guy. But like outside of that, and Tevlin is a guy. I don't like love their defensive personnel either. Like I don't. Their LSM play has been bad, frankly. Like not good at all. They've got to get better at that position. They need another probably legit starting defenseman to play alongside Fake, and Kastner would be my point of view. And then I think they're good and young at the D midi position. They're probably okay there. It'll be the offseason, and we can save this for next week. But like I don't want to take away. I can be critical. Like I do think that you're going to see changes. Like I don't know if you run it back Ryder and Malloy. Like I think there's probably room to upgrade one of the attack spots around Chris Cav. I don't know who it is, but I'm going to go back to the apple tree. Like those guys are vets. Like so at some point, Train and Spalina are going to need to keep getting younger. But Spalina is so good at this. Like as well as I do. He's been doing this forever. Like he's going to do that.
Joey Spalina for the Redwoods is just going
to but Joey's going to he's going to go to the Archers, I think. But anyway, the end of the day, I'll pick apart their roster and changes next week before in our offseason episode. Yeah. Culture, effort, coaching, guys rising to the moment. Like they had an incredible run. They should be super proud. I thought they were dead. Like after they have that hot start and then they go on this losing streak, you kind of think like, yeah, okay, this based on their roster talent, this is what you expect. For them to then like revive themselves and win a few games late and win a playoff game. Anthony Kelly to me is the coach of the year.
100%.
I don't really see how I think he's a finalist alongside the two championship coaches. And sometimes this stuff they just like get, but like those two championship coaches have the best rosters by far. Right. And what he did with this roster 100%. Is more impressive, I think, than what they have done with theirs. And so, congratulations to them. I also think Brian Tevlin coming out of college, you kind of knew, he's built for the pro game. They love to say that about two-way middies. I feel like that's like a stock thing people say. And in reality, it's like, well, maybe you still have to, you can't be okay at offense and defense and be built for the pro game. You still have to be great at one of the positions, or else you're not going to. He has become a great D-midi. Like he's stripping people. He's great on the wings. And then, yes, he has the ability to stay. So he might win defensive D-midi of the year. A lot of positives from this team, but this was always going to happen. Like this game went exactly like Will and I said. Like the Outlaws haven't played in a month. Early on, the Redwoods get 2 out of Chris Fake, which like never saw that coming.
No. And
they hang around. But then like the more they went, I think that the changing moment was when Bernhard dodged Connors, goes right. Connors has to fully spin around. Then he goes left. He fully spins around again. Then he just hammers the corner. It makes it 4-2. Right? It was 4-0 at one point. That makes it 4-2. Then there's like 13 seconds left, and then Weirman wins the faceoff, and then they get another one to make it 4-3 right before the end of the first quarter. And at that point, I was like, okay, this game's over. Like it's just so easy for the Outlaws to score, and it's like so hard for the Redwoods to score. So that's kind of where I'd leave it with them. I just thought they were just outmatched in this game.
Yeah,
but it was a great season for them, for sure.
And holding the Outlaws to 12 goals is I think you're holding the Outlaws to 12 goals. You do have a chance to win the game. And then another thing that the Redwoods did a great job of was not giving up any transition. I think like one of their D middies had like an assist, but they didn't really get any transition opportunities. Yeah. And like, we'll get into this, but I think that's one of the keys of keeping yourself in the game, because Pisano and, Geddes, Tarafanko,
Tarafanko,
so good.
Enough on offense to get to 12 without transition. If you let them get transition too, they're going to score 16 goals, 15 goals. Like you're 100% right about that. You have to take those guys away.
And like another guy on their roster that no one talks about is Dalton Young, right? Dalton Young had 2 goals. He scores these gritty, like big, huge goals that just like put the game out of reach. Like I think when he scored, it was up by 3.
Boy, man. That boy is thick.
He's
just got like a little thick boy, like, his head is like crammed into his helmet and his like cheeks are like puffed up. Like he's thick,
And he's
man.
got like
he's great.
Yeah,
He's so good.
Yeah, and he was an attackman at Richmond, and he's just
That
playing.
reminds me of JoJo Marasco.
Yeah,
How about
JoJo.
that?
That's a great call.
Like pro JoJo Marasco.
That's a great
right?
call.
Not like because pro JoJo Marasco was thick like that. Was a
Thick
incredible locker room guy. Was 2 goals a game right when you needed him. Not gonna run by anybody. Not even necessarily gonna run over anybody, but just gonna kind of bowling ball around and make mid-range shots and really good finishing in by the crease. He's a huge piece for them.
Yeah, and he's
really good. Richmond Spider.
Yeah, they have they're dodging, their worst D middies guarding him, and he's just taking it behind the cage. And I think he enjoys dodging short sticks like that. But man, Brennan O'Neill, Pat Cavanaugh, 37 points. I'm not sure. I think O'Neill probably has a little bit over that, but him and O'Neill have obviously found their way on this team, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Atlas are going to defend them next week. But this Outlaws team, it's like the Outlaws of old, right? And then McNaney in between the pipes with a 64% save percentage. I mean, he shut the door in the second half. But yeah, man, this Outlaws team, it's gonna be a fun game to watch next week.
So a couple things on the Outlaws I'd point out. One, Shelley's gonna win MVP. Brendan O'Neill to me is still the best player.
Yeah.
If you're starting team tomorrow and you're the first overall pick and all the players are available, I think I'm still going Brennan. It's close. Like Shelley's made it close, but when you can hit fadeaway twos, it's just ridiculous. He's running away from the cage, just shooting it's like a sky hook 2-pointer.
Yeah,
it's just insane, and it just completely changes the complex of a game.
It's wild.
You've got a guy that can do that. And he has 6 points. He's not going to win MVP. It's one of these things where I actually feel like he should. I don't even think he's finalist because I think they went with Pat right from this team, or maybe no. He is the finalist along with Pat.
Yeah,
they both are.
But this award that award should I hate MVP awards given out before the championship game because I think the championship game should also be
determine it. It's like you got to go one of two ways. It's either a regular season award or it's you give it out at the end of the year. I don't know, whatever. Honestly, who fucking cares? You play to win championships. Brendan O'Neill is not going to lose any sleep about it. But it's just is it the most valuable player? To me, he is the most valuable player. He is the player that is the toughest to deal with. And a lot of, I think Pat obviously is an incredible player as well. But I just think so much of his success has also been unlocked by Brennan. Although you could say that both ways. But this is what the point I wanted to make before I ramble on that. I think, and we'll pick this game. I'm leaning Denver right now. And I think the reason why, and I do think the Atlas have good coaching, but the way that they're able to make adjustments, right? So they don't have a great first half. And we're sitting there texting the coaches are doing way too much with matchups and keeping guys on sides. I don't understand how you go out in that game and think it's a good idea to put Jesse Bernhardt on Dylan Malloy, who has 120 pounds on Jesse.
And kept the matchup.
When you have Mike Manley right over there, who's just as big as Dylan Malloy. It's the same thing I said about the chaos. Why are you putting Rowlett on Malloy? Rowlett is so good. Jared, big on big. It's just you wouldn't put fucking Chris Paul on Shaq. It's just it doesn't mean Chris Paul is not good at defense. It's just he guards the point guards and the centers guard the centers. I don't understand. So that to me was weird. They changed it, right? They came out after Malloy got hot. They came out, they put JT Jackson on Malloy, right? And they made the other matchups make more sense. And I thought that was to see them be willing to make those adjustments. I think defensively, sometimes they're a little slide happy. But they had with Jesse, with Manley, with Pseudo and that coaching staff who's been around, I do think they have kind of the intelligence defensively to just in game figure out, okay, where are we getting beat, what needs to change, what's happening. And I thought they made great adjustments. Malloy was on fire early, and then in the second half, they just kind of suffocated them. The only goal that would score late is a Kavanaugh deep one. Great. You just kind of live with that. So I just think they obviously have the firepower on offense, and then I just think they have the intelligence, the veteran presence on defense, the ability to kind of, make changes with matchups in a group that's pretty well built in terms of how they all kind of fit together to cover different pieces. And then I think they're excellent at the rope unit, right? Like Paisino to me is the LSM of the year. I think, I don't think any LSM has just like completely risen above the rest, but he's the one for me that does the most for his team. I think he's dangerous offensively. Obviously, I think he's very solid, but better than solid defensively. I think he's very good defensively, and he's also really disruptive on wings in the middle of the field. So I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of Tarafinko. Like, I just think they have, Geddes is good as well. Like, I just think their rope units is really solid. The only concern, and maybe this, unless you have anything else to Redwoods, we can naturally just kind of shift into talking about the preview for the championship game. My only concern with them is beyond Bernhardt and Young, they don't get shit from the rest of their midfielders. Like,
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say that. Justin Anderson pokes his head in there every now and then. I think that's what needs to happen in the championship game.
Press out.
Like, Justin Anderson needs to score 2 goals because Bundy has not done anything. I think Bundy has like 3 points on the entire season.
Yeah.
Like, he has not had the same pop. He's a Georgetown kid. I'd be willing to bet he's got a job, and that when you sit in a cubicle all day, your 103 mile an hour shot turns into a 96 mile an hour shot, and all of a sudden, like, it's just not, like, you're not scoring dues anymore. Like, so that would be like because they did it, like the Redwoods kind of showed with Pat. They pressed him out all over the field with Kastner, and he has a quiet day. He goes 1 and 2. O'Neal goes nuts, has 6 points. Dalton Young with the 2 big goals. But, like, I don't know. It's just like if the Atlas are scoring, right, and this turns into a shootout, is there enough depth of scoring? Like, I would argue the depth of midfield at the Atlas with Trainer and Kelleher, right, like, and Bowering is maybe deeper. I don't know if the top end talent is the same, right, with Bernhardt necessarily, but I do think they're deeper. There's more guys that feel like they can hurt you on that Atlas midfield than this Outlaws midfield. It'd be one of the few places I'd give them an advantage. So how do you want to do this, Harsey? How do you want to talk about this championship game and break it down?
I think we just go into, our thoughts and who we're gonna take, and I'll go first in this one. You kind of touched on it, but for me, in this game, which is going to be awesome to watch, and I think what's going to win this game is the two guys in between the pipes, right? Logan McNaney, and then obviously Liam Entman. So this game is going to be hard to pick. I mean, both offenses, if you look at the numbers in their 2020 or their 2025 stats, everything is pretty much just even. It's like pretty much like a pick 'em. I'm leaning towards the Atlas in this one. 2 reasons. They're the attack unit for the Atlas, how well they're playing. Like, the Outlaws are going to have to do a lot to shut that unit down. Like, Jeff T quietly has 40 points. Like, everyone's talking about Connor Schellenberger, Xander Dixon, but he still had 40 points this year, and he's still, I know he's not in the MVP race, but, like, he's an MVP candidate every year, I feel, via his production. And for me, I think, I'm taking the Atlas in this one. I think they have the slight advantage at the face-off X. Obviously, Luke Weirman did give Baptiste some fits, but their 32-second shot clock offense looked very good. So I think I'm taking the Atlas in this one. I just think they have too much firepower on offense. You just touched on it. I think they have the slight advantage in the midfield from a production standpoint. Costabile didn't have any points in this last game, and they still win this game. But I think, for me, that they have the slight advantage. I think the Outlaws defense might have the slight advantage against the Atlas's defense. Like you said, we haven't been big on the Atlas defense, but I just think they have too much firepower on offense. Trevor Baptiste may could take it, and if they can produce in that 32 like they did, I'm taking the Atlas in this one. And
this is one of the hardest ones I like in a long time. Which is really, I hope it lives up to what I believe it could be.
Yeah.
These 2 teams are just both so good. If you look at the stats for the season, they slightly favor the Atlas.
Yeah.
The Atlas are a little bit more in scores per game, barely. The goal scores against the Outlaws are basically the same margin better. I mean, the Atlas have scored more goals. They have a higher shooting percentage. They have and then where it jumps is they've got not significantly, but they're 6% higher on face off, and then their save percentage is also higher. So, like, if you're going down the scoreboard, you kind of just did this, but like that's what I would do. So the goalies, slight edge to Intamin. It could be a push, like right, but it's like fuck. If I have to pick, I think slight edge to Intamin. Then if you go to the defense, slight edge to Denver, right? Then if you go to the faceoff X, clearly edge to the Atlas, right? If you go to the midfield, I'd go edge to Atlas. Although I think Bernhardt's probably the best midi on the field of all of them. I think the unit, right? You probably lean towards the Atlas midfield unit. Then you go to the attack. I mean, I'd go Outlaws, but like I don't know, is that right? Like,
it's a tough one to pick.
I mean,
you don't even want to pick it. Like
it's probably a push.
Yeah,
it's probably a push. Like I just get attracted to the Brendan O'Neill thing. It's like he gets 2 points for a lot of his shots, and your guys only get one when they shoot. Like that's kind of how I feel about it. Like he just, his ability to score 2-pointers like so easily is just what like to me potentially could be an X factor in this game.
And that again, like,
it's about as close to a matchup as I can remember having to pick in a PLL championship. I mean, I feel like every year of the past, I mean, you go through and there's kind of a clear, like you think this is the team. Like I also think both of these teams have been on like a similar building trajectory. Like it doesn't feel like one is, I don't know, more ready to be here. The coaching edge, I would have thought Pseudo, but with what Pressler has done this year, it seems like he's kind of settled in and figured out the pro game.
Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting one. And I think another thing we saw this past weekend that could also lose a team a game is the 2-pointers, right? No twos. Like if a team's next weekend or the weekend after, they have a week off, but if the Atlas come out, or let's say the Outlaws come out and they're pushing transition and they score 2 twos, I mean, obviously that has
because that's when we didn't touch on the rope unit, which the rope unit, the Atlas has been their strength for a long time with Danny Logan, but I would definitely give that edge Denver. Like Carpenter hasn't been as electric this year, and Pacino certainly has been in Tarafinko and Geddes. So look, as you were talking, Kyle, there was part of me that was like switching my pick to the Atlas because I'm like, you know what, like you're right, like everything you're saying is right. There's just something about the Outlaws jersey in pro lacrosse, and I don't think we've seen Jesse win a championship. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe we have. I don't think we've seen Manly do it. Like Manly with the Rochester teams lost. Jesse maybe with the Bayhawks at some point got one, but it would have been early in his career if he did.
I don't know if he did or not.
I don't think so. Manly definitely didn't with Rochester, and they were in the finals like 4 times with him and Joel and Galloway. Like they were always right there knocking on the door.
No, he won 2. He won 2 championships, 2013 and 19
with the Bay.
Yeah,
with the 13 with the Bayhawks. Who would 19 have been with? Oh, the Whips.
Oh yeah, the Whips. Was he on the Whipsnakes?
No, was he?
It says 2000.
Was the Whips.
2013, 2019. This is championships.
Was it 2019 was PLL Whips? That was the first.
Oh, Bubble. No, that was Bubble. Wasn't that Bubble? He was in the Bubble.
No, 2020 was Bubble.
Not Bubble. He was in the MLL, the last year of the MLL. That.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
that one.
Yeah, so he was under contract.
Yeah, so he won.
Okay, well that doesn't count. So you can erase that one. So 2013 with the Bayhawks.
Yeah,
he got one.
Yeah.
So which was my rookie year and his rookie year as well. I don't know. It just feels like those guys are going to get one, together.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing this thing where I'm terrible podcasting, but now I'm doing this thing where I'm like I have seen them lose in playoff games. Like I've seen Manly and Bernhardt. I have this memory of in 2022. We were playing in the quarterfinals against the Redwoods right after the Chrome had played the Chaos. The Chrome that season were like, it was Manly and Bernhardt and JT Giles Harris, and they were 10-2. They had this big Chrome back was the whole thing that year. And the Chaos beat them like 12-2, just like undressed them. And I was like, it was just so visceral because like we were coming on the field to warm up. By the way, this always bugged me. I have 2 other stories I could tell about this, but like we were coming on the field to warm up. And they were like fucking devastated on the sideline, and I hated it because I'm like, we have to stretch, and like Jesse and Manly are like standing there, like Manly's just like blank staring into the ether, and I'm like having to be like, hey, can you move? Like, we're trying to stretch here. Like, it left, like, it's so weird, but it left such a feeling of like, well, I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like for them to lose.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's making it like me not want to pick them. But no, I have to stick with my gut on this. Like, I just think I'm going to go O'Neal, Pseudo. I think McNaney obviously has big game. Like, I think Entenmann will be great, but I think so will McNaney. Like, maybe that edge isn't going to be quite as big. You know, Bernhardt maybe X factor. I'm going to pick the Outlaws to win with confidence level, kind of like that report, that intelligence report about the bunkers being completely obliterated. Confidence level 0. Like, I don't like, it's low confidence on this pick, but give me the Outlaws by 1 in an overtime game.
That's what I was going to say. 15-14 overtime.
Goal. McNaney save creates a break to Tarasenko, and you know, maybe Tarasenko hits the game-winning goal in transition. They don't want to slide off of any of these attackmen. You know, that like, it's going to be something like that. I think it's going to be a really, really intense battle. I saw something on the website about Weirman being hurt. If he's hurt,
ooh, that's tough.
Then that changes my pick, because I do think Weirman like is scrappy enough to get something off of Trevor and make it. But like, if you don't have Weirman, like, and Trevor wins 80-something%, then I'm not picking the Outlaws. So look, confidence level low and incumbent on Weirman being in the lineup for this game. I'm going to pick the Outlaws. One other quick story on that. So I also was very frustrated in my last ever season in 2022. This is just like PLL.
This is becoming a therapy session, Scott. Keep going.
We're going to play the Chaos in the semifinals, right? And the semifinal before us is Whipsnakes against the Water Dogs. And the Water Dogs beat them. 1-goal game, late game. We're sharing a locker room with the Whipsnakes with literally just a curtain pulled in between. So it's like a big ass locker room where they just have a curtain that pulls between them. One side of the curtain is ours and the other side of the curtain is theirs. And I get PLL ops, like, oh, well, like, the Whipsnakes will just be like coming out as the Archers are going out for warm-ups. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, by the time we're coming in to start the game, they're going to be cleared out. But what they don't account for is like, the fucking Whipsnakes season just ended. So like, we're sitting in there getting dressed to go play and trying to like get your fucking mojo going. Like, you're getting ready to go out to warm-ups. And I hear like dudes crying on the other side of the fucking curtain and like, fuck, and like slamming things and like yelling. And I'm like, me, a believer of the energy being a important part of like, you know, a life well lived. I'm like, this energy could not be worse in this locker room right now. Like, there's literally loser energy in the locker room. Like, even though like we shouldn't, I feel like we're kind of like hesitant to turn the music up because we're like, oh, this kind of sucks. Like, they got to listen to fucking Dua Lipa right after they just lost. Like, you have this like weird vibe. And I was so mad after the game. Like, we come out and lose like we lose like a 10-8 game in like a battle. And of course, like, that's the end of my career. Like, I didn't say it publicly, but I knew it. So I might have had like a cocktail or two too many that night and given like Mike Rabel and Rachel some shit at the bar, which I like still. I'm sorry, Mike and Rachel. Like, it wasn't my best moment, but I was just like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, I knew that we were fucked in that. I would never have admitted it in the moment, but in my head, I was like, it put the idea of losing into my brain because I'm like sitting here listening to like these fucking Whipsnakes players, Earhart and Jake Bernhardt, and like some great players like deal with the same thing I'm dealing with of like, is my career over? Is my like, so it was, anyway, I hope they fix that. It won't be an issue in the championship game. Just thought it was worthwhile to share. Maybe it's a story.
And I was, before you jumped on that, I was going to go last time that Atlas and Outlaws played, Weirman actually edged Trevor Baptiste by one faceoff. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point, man. If he's and look,
he's got that dog in him. Weirman's he's not the talent that like a TD or a Trevor or a Joe is, but he's a dog.
Yeah, he's got that Bubba. He's got that Bubba in him. But
he's just tough. He's a tough motherfucker, and he's always seemed to be like a big game player.
And the PLL scheduling, like he has 2 weeks, so he has a lot of time depending on what his injury is. He has 2 weeks. So anything else, Scott?
I didn't realize that, Kyle.
They're off.
I should know that. September 14th is the championship.
Yep, they're off.
Huh.
So
Okay. Well, 2 weeks. Damn, the Outlaws have just been chilling. I wonder if they get together and practice this week. So maybe we can set expectations with the people here. Like we'll see. Maybe we'll come up with an interview for next week or something because we did just preview the whole game. Maybe we'll get back on here next week so I can change my pick if the vibes have shifted a little bit. But I'm gonna stay on my pick for now. No, I think that covers it, Hartsy. It's great to be back together. Only a couple more weeks till the off season here, so we'll finish strong. And
I think this is going to be one of the best championship games in pro lacrosse. I think it's on paper. It has it all. So we'll see.
All right, peace.
Peace.